On Nationwide this evening, revisiting the big storms of earlier this month. In the space of a few days, huge damage was done to some of our coastal areas, and we see what steps have been taken to make reparations. You're very welcome to Nationwide. Now, Storm Christine recently battered our coastline for a prolonged period, causing hundreds of millions of euro worth of damage. It was described as one of the most destructive storms in decades, causing extensive flooding, roads to be washed away and damaging our coastal defences. The force of the storms caused extensive damage. In the southeast, parts of counties Waterford and Wexford were particularly hit by the hurricane-strength winds, with the towns of Duncannon and Tramore taking the brunt of them. Our southeast correspondent, Damien Tiernan, who reported on the storms, has been looking at how the clean-up is going.
When the flood calls, you have no...
It was unrelenting, it just never stopped. It was just wave after wave.
The power of the sea.
It was bad, Damien. It really was. It was the worst we've seen in 30 odd years that we're here.
The wrath of the sea.
There was actually waves coming in off the sea into the road, flowing down the road back into the sea.
Water like an angry neighbour.
What we had was extremely rare. We had 3 storms in the space of a week.
Trespassing.
I got about an inch of water in the kitchen, and I just literally had to wait until the tide went out.
Flowing, going where it wants to.
It was like a show, the greatest show on earth, looking at the tide coming over the prom.
This was Park Road, Waterford City. This was Plunkett train station in the city. And then Tramore. Photojournalist Dylan Vaughan took these pictures.
What got me about it was sort of like just the general size of the waves, the size of the swell, the wind was ferocious.
Others, such as teacher Owen Carney, went down for a look on the night of the worst storm.
The wind was unbelievable. I went down to the prom, and there was maybe 50 people there taking photos and filming, and they'd never seen the like of it.
In the T-Bay Surf Club, Dolores, Margaret and Elizabeth still can't believe how bad it was.
Oh my goodness.
Well, we had to hold one another so we weren't blown off our feet, and we had to walk behind the T-Bay here. You couldn't really, you were totally exposed.
Other photographers also captured the ferocity of it all, as locals describe what happened.
We literally had a river running down the road here in front of the centre, and a lot of businesses were closed. We still had electricity. Tramore was hit quite hard. The prom was damaged. A lot of the road was kind of dug up.
And this massive crater appeared in Strand Road. The council believes it was potentially devastating.
We're very lucky that we were able to carry out the remedial works to it, because if we weren't able to effect a repair there, the seawall could have went. If the seawall went, the road behind us would have gone. And as you can see then, just over my left shoulder here, the apartments would have been in serious danger.
Shuttering ply first, then the contents of 10 cement lorries to fill the 4-metre wide hole. Maybe a €50,000 bill just to fix this problem. Council workers continuing with remedial works. And for the first time in decades, the storm has exposed these wooden stakes up the Strand. And it wasn't just Tramore that was hit. Orla Gartner has lived in Poulbury in Waterford City for the past 15 years. She'll never forget the Monday morning of the storm. It's awful.
It is awful, yeah. It's horrible. It is horrible.
And water in the house, the smell and...
the dampness coming through, yes, you really feel it.
The sandbags are staying for now. Some believe the City Council's flood relief works elsewhere in the city may be driving the water down into Polbury. And then there's the first 3 days of February to worry about.
Water, if it's blocked in one direction, will find another way to go, and it's found its way to Polbury.
Just washed out the same as if they were pebbles. Washed away back out, landed out here where the pool is, those big concrete blocks.
From the air, you can see Eric and Dimpna Malloy's house in Duncannon in Wexford. The council is working out what to do. The cost could be as high as 300,000. Sand dunes have been washed away.
So something will have to be done, because we have big tides coming up again in February, and if it's a southerly wind, them banks are going to go. There's no question saying they're not. They will go.
But this stage now they're down to 8 foot at the closest part of the road. And that's the main road that comes in with our sewerage, with electricity, it comes in with our cables for all our broadband, the whole lot. And the only road into the village is that road.
Leonardo da Vinci said water is the driving force of nature. How right he was.
Coastal areas across County Clare were particularly badly hit by the storms from Lahinch right down to Loop Head, where the cost of damage is estimated to be around €23 million. Communities, however, continue to count the cost of the devastation, as some families are still unable to return to their homes. And the big fear, of course, is a return of damaging storms. Our Midwest correspondent, Kathy Halloran, has been revisiting families and businesses affected.
They say it was the worst storm destruction in Lahinch in living memory. The force of the waves knocked the promenade wall and ripped up the footpath. Seawater formed a lake further down the prom, covering the playground and destroying surf fans which were parked in the car park. This image captured the force of the storm at the well-known County Clare seaside town and went all over the world on social media. Much repair work has been done since, but the story of the storm is not forgotten. Lahinch native Thomas O'Sullivan, aged almost 80, who's been involved in search and rescue all his life, says he never saw anything like it.
The last storm we had was the worst I have ever witnessed, because we had high seas and strong winds, and combined water and wind strength. I never saw anything like it.
O'Looney's Bar and Restaurant, located on the seafront, was hit head-on by the force of the raging sea. Owner Antoine O'Looney says it was like Armageddon, like the place had been bombed. Surging seawater knocked in the door and smashed the front windows. Hope and hard work, and he may be back in business by St. Patrick's Day.
Since then, we've been drying out the place, getting the equipment moved, and basically drying it out and getting it ready to be assessed, and assessing the damage, because that takes some time. It's not today, what's going to rust, because it is salt water, and salt water is just the worst to deal with, because all your wiring and stuff begins to corrode in the plug sockets.
But what about this, Antoine, and the likelihood that this may happen again? You are very exposed.
Extremely exposed, but the building is extremely well built, and we did go to a lot of detail in stopping any damage, and we've lived by the sea all our lives, so we know exactly what's coming and the force of the ocean. So what we need to do is just tweak up the little things that have been damaged and then move on from there.
Dexter McCullough and John Lennon had just bought the Lahinch Surf Experience and were looking forward to a good year, only to find their van with all their gear submerged by seawater.
When we came down and saw the van, we were just devastated, Just to see the destruction in the promenade in Lahinch, and the van under 4 foot of water was just, it's not what you expected to buy when you buy a new business, It's just...
Yeah, and the van is completely useless now. What are you using it for?
At the moment, it'll just be used for storage. That's what it's going to be used for,
It can't be used to drive?
It can't be it's not drivable, it's not. The engine is wrecked, Everything has to be taken off, out, cleaned, rinsed and dried, which took us a long time, and we're still in the process of cleaning the van, Being a source school, the equipment will recover from being wet, but it's not what you'd imagine to start 2014,
The same optimism is not shared further down the coast at Quilty. John O'Connor's home is destroyed. The seawater literally rose up over his back garden and raged into his home. He heard a gurgle in the downstairs toilet to awake and find the basement of his home covered in floodwater. His 2 family dogs died when he could not reach them. He and his young son sleeping downstairs, almost drowned. His family have still not been able to return to their home. Their nightmare and fear of further storm damage continues.
And I live in nightmare, tell you the truth now. Just kids are not sleeping, they're on. Myself and my wife can't sleep, but we're after the council trying to get something temporary up the back here. They won't release no funds, they've no resources, nothing.
So nothing's happening here?
Not one thing.
So what about the future?
I can't see a future here now at the moment. Simple as that.
And there's not much optimism either at Carrickholt on the Loophead Peninsula, where a number of homes at Kilcredawn remain cut off by floodwaters. Their only access route, an old bog road, reopened. There are huge worries about the future.
Hell, our lives have been turned upside down, you know. I'm used to getting in the car in the morning, driving down to work down here. Haven't done it 2 weeks tomorrow. Have a neighbour's Jeep that's getting me in and out on a bog road, put in place there by Clare County Council. But a nightmare, it's a nightmare, yeah.
Are people living in fear? What's the future?
Well, sure, look, we're in fear of the future. We don't know what's happening. With the wall gone over there, this is likely to happen in July or August. So, like, we don't know what the future is. What are we going to do?
And there you have the stark reality of life for some in the West Clare area. And as we've just seen, some people are still desperately in need of our help. After the break, we travel north of Clare to see the impact of the storms in County Galway. Don't go away.
In 1949, 100 Jewish children spent a year in Clonyn Castle to recuperate from the traumas of war.
They were the kindest people that we ever met. It's the first time we were treated as human beings.
In an emotional reunion in Delvin.
It's a great privilege for us to be here. I can say shalom, agus fáilte.
I guess you always want to go back where you have been, and Ireland was on my mind a lot.
Some of the survivors revisit the place where their lives were transformed.
It's overwhelming.
Would you believe? The Children of Clonyn Castle, Sunday at 10:30 on RTE 1.
Elegance and exhilaration. They say you can't have it all, but from just €209 a month, you can. From the car brand with the best resale value in Ireland. A new look, a new level of specification. The new Auris from Toyota. The best built cars in the world.
Let me show you how I serve this soup on this plate. Simple. My thick chicken soup is delicious by itself, but you can also turn it into a tasty family dinner. Fry some meat, add some veggies, and pour over the thick, creamy chicken soup. Leave it to simmer, and you have a meal. For more recipe ideas, visit nor.ie.
This is Horizon, where one clever box lets you do extraordinary things. Like recording 4 of your favourite programmes while you watch a 5th. It transforms any screen into a TV screen. It even suggests exciting new programmes you might like. And includes 21 amazing HD channels. Horizon, the most extraordinary TV ever, delivered by UPC's Fibre Power Network. Now in a bundle with 120 meg unlimited broadband. UPC, the makers of extraordinary.
Welcome back to Nationwide, where we're looking at Christine, the recent storm which caused so much damage. Now, coastal areas along County Galway took a battering, with the cost of repairs put at almost €20 million. Our Western correspondent Pat McGrath has been looking at how communities and businesses have been dealing with the aftermath of what's been described as unprecedented damage along the western seaboard.
It usually takes more than the threat of storms to put people off walking the promenade in Salt Hill. Many braved the deteriorating conditions on the night ahead of high tide 3 weeks ago, but by morning, walkers were looking elsewhere for their daily stroll. As the force of Mother Nature was unleashed, coastal communities braced themselves. When the River Corra burst its banks, businesses on Galway's Flood Street knew there was no stopping it.
Nothing we could do. We did everything right. Just that wind and that tide tonight really made a hames of it. And there's a lot of other people out there in the exact same situation. Thankfully, nobody's been hurt. I'd love to say it's only money, but it's not only money when you're a struggling business at the moment.
That situation was mirrored elsewhere. In Salt Hill, water flooded into buildings along the prom, wiping out years of effort in a matter of minutes.
We didn't think of the water this time. We just wouldn't have expected this to happen this way. And we're closed until we can't do anything downstairs. That's our fridges and our kitchen and everything, and it is a cafe. What we have upstairs are only our chairs and things. So the main hub of everything is downstairs, really. But everything is destroyed down there. It's just all gone.
The structural damage caused by the storms in Galway has been described as unprecedented. In many places, roads were simply washed away and debris everywhere testified to the power of the surge. Along the Connemara coast, €700,000 will have to be spent to safeguard burial grounds. Millions more will be needed to repair roads, piers and coastal defences.
This power of the sea really shocked me. I was speechless. I suppose what happened here in 3 hours is, first of all, the promenade was taken in two places where there was no rock armour, and west of here, behind me here at the Bottle Banks, the actual car park was taken. All the surface went, some of the walls they're all cracked. The actual car park went. The Bottle Banks took off and ended up the fields here. There was a portaloo on the main pier down here, found 3 miles east of here. The shoreline here has been gouged out behind us. There's an old boathouse behind us here. It's actually been gouged out. The footpath has disappeared. Anywhere where there was concrete and rock armour, it held. Anywhere where there wasn't, the sea took its toll.
In the days after the storm surge, communities surveyed the problems and came to terms with the aftermath. Since then, the focus has been on the clean-up effort. As buildings dry out and things return to normal, businesses say there's huge goodwill from locals eager to see them find their feet.
This is the basement downstairs where all the water was and the flooding, and we couldn't believe. This was a thing that we realised later on, because this is our office. This is where we had files, cabinets, music, tills, cameras, all the controls for everything were here. And it was only as the water was emptied out of the place and we opened the door that everything came out floating to our feet. So this whole place is gutted. It's actually back to bricks and mortar. The amount of people that kind of just said, would you like a hand with clean-up? You know, it was amazing. Even people coming along to me in the street that would have seen it, and in the news and on the papers, on the local paper and all that. So it is amazing, you know, and it's not lost in Galway, I don't think.
I think that was a really nice thing that came out of it. I mean, when you went out to Salt Hill and you saw like everybody's popping into various businesses and said, when are you opening up? And even when they did open up, they went in to support them, see could they help out with it. So yeah, I think it was just really that it was so close to home. I mean, it was wild. I mean, and I suppose that the damage, when you saw big boulders in the middle of a road, you know, and seeing the vicious way that the sea worked, you know, I think you can see the damage for it.
That community spirit is also evident in Onspidgale. Locals have been gathering at weekends to make a start and put things right.
People came down here this morning and decided to go clearing the rocks themselves from the footpath, from the walkway. Just the old style with your grow bar and your bars to lift the rocks over. So we've cleared the footpath to the bridge here. Hopefully we'll be able to get something going here in the short term. We need to have something by the summer here, because that's when the tourists will be here and we want to be able to walk. Local people know, they know, the community knows, and they know how to respond like they've done here today and last weekend. And I compliment every one of them that came out here. They've done great work, absolutely brilliant work. And you can see it, there's a Mehalai Brennan Glushuk, as I say, Asquailga, has started to get our community back.
It may be hard to imagine given the suffering that Christine caused so many people, but those storm clouds did have a silver lining for one village along the western seaboard, Mullaghmore in County Sligo. It's well known as a lovely summertime destination, but over recent years it's been gaining a reputation in wintertime as a location for big wave surfing. Arising out of Christine and the conditions it created, Mullaghmore was the place to be for international and local surfers alike. Our Northwest correspondent Eileen Magner has the story.
Brewing up a storm, brewing up a storm, brewing up inside, and his eyes are wild and it can't go on. He's brewing up a storm.
The word was out. This storm would deliver massive waves at Mullaghmore Head, and some of the world's top big wave surfers dropped everything to get here, and not for the first time.
I love surfing Mullaghmore. I personally think it's one of the best waves in the world.
This is one of the biggest storms ever. Oh, I'm just happy to be here and hope to come out in one piece.
Is it dangerous?
Oh, totally. Got 3 life jackets on.
Wow.
I'm terrified, to be honest. First time I've been here and I'm terrified.
So why are you doing it?
It's the thrill of it.
Every time it's breaking, we come up from Clare, surf the wave. It's not about the height, we're surfing it at the moment, we're trying to get into the barrels. That's when the wave goes over your head. So it's not about the height of the wave like they surf down in the Zar, it's all about getting into the barrel and getting into the pocket.
I'd say 20 to 40 foot faces, maybe some of the sets 50 foot on the face of the wave. But the thing that's real special about this wave is it's a very hollow wave and it creates a big barrel, and that's what we're looking for as being a surfer, is riding the biggest barrel you can possibly ride.
Not like any other big wave around the world. It's so hard to surf that it gives an extra challenge, and I think that's what brings guys back every year to surf it.
You usually lie on your back and they pull you up on the jet ski, and you're going pretty fast into the wave, and then that's pretty much it from there. Everything else is instinct.
Must be some thrill.
Yeah, it's crazy. Buzzing for days after it. There's nothing like it, definitely not. Pretty intense and scary. There's a lot of water moving and it's massive. So, but we've got a lot of guys on safety that are standing by, like Paul O'Kane and Peter Conroy and all the boys who are looking after us, which is amazing. Like, they're doing such a good job.
Riders on the storm, riders on the storm.
Mullaghmore Head is amazing. It's the place I fell in love with big wave surfing. So whenever there's a swell, I will always get myself back to this part of Ireland. And yeah, I love the wave. It suits my style of surfing, and yeah, it's an amazing spot.
What does it feel like out there?
It's like you're riding down a street pavement and the pavement's falling away underneath you, and then it's kind of coming up over your back. And then when it lands on your back, it is like a ton of bricks as well. So
and that's fun.
It's what I live for, and it's what I want to carry on doing for a fair few years yet.
The big wave surfers attracted big crowds, including a famous face from UK television.
I've got a bit of holiday time at the moment, so I was able to just jump on a flight last minute.
Has it been worth it?
Yeah, a lot of us standing up here, we're all surfers, but there's no way that we'd even consider getting in the water today. It's really dangerous. It's really dangerous, but I mean, they train for that, and they've got all the right safety equipment. They know what they're doing. If you don't know what you're doing, then you're a madman considering getting in the water.
But even some of the most experienced surfers can have mishaps out there. What happened to you?
I just went for a wave, and discretion. I threw the board away and the wave just smashed the board. That was it.
And you got a whack on the face yourself?
That was a scratch getting into the water. Okay. Just add to the looks.
There was such a great buzz. I mean, the village was dead for, in the wintertime it's so quiet. You see a storm, but a storm from Mullaghmore is just, it's great because the surfers pile in and it's great.
So what do you do when you see the surfers up?
Surfers come, it could be a Monday morning, you're like, oh, Monday morning, here we go. But you see the jet skis pulling up at the harbour and you're like, right, busy day, get a pot of soup on quick.
The storm brought a huge media focus on Mullaghmore. Photographs went worldwide, and our RTE pictures got tens of thousands of hits on the web and were rebroadcast across Britain and Europe.
I think it'll be a huge boost to the Northwest in general and Mullaghmore in particular. I mean, I think we have one of the most beautiful resorts in the country here, and it's virtually untouched. And any kind of positive focus is terrific. The exposure will lead to more and more people visiting Mullaghmore, which has to be positive for everybody involved.
So long may the big waves last.
Absolutely.
Well, it's an ill wind that blows no good, and Mullaghmore was a surprising beneficiary of our recent storms. Indeed, the storms of 2014, known as Christine, will not be forgotten along the coast of Ireland, and they are a reminder of the power of nature. Let's hope that lessons can be learned and preparations made for future storm events. And so we've come to the end of the programme. We're back again with another Nationwide on Monday. We'll see you then.
Philomena Lee, the Irish woman whose search for her son inspired a now Oscar-nominated movie, chats with Ryan Tubridy at 25 to 10 tonight on The Late Late Show. Coming up next though, some highlights from the Fleadh Cheoil.